Welcome to the CiRCE Institute's college fair. In over the course of this week, we will present. I've been presenting on a theme. We'll continue to do so for the rest of the week, and then each day, a college, a representative or two from a college come and join us, and then they present on that college. And today we have Belmont Abbey College with us, with the Honors College from Belmont Abbey. And Tom Barrett Kelly will be joining us, he's here, but he'll be taking over the call here in a little bit to talk to you about the Honors College at Belmont Abbey, of which I have a very high regard. Two of my children graduated from Belmont Abbey Honors College, or from Belmont Abbey, one from the Honors College. And I have great love for the Abbey. It's local, so that helps. It's not too far away, and I get to go down there and do stuff with them from time to time. So I love it. I love Belmont Abbey. Hope that you guys will give it a look. And before we get started, before we get into that, though, I want to talk a little bit about keeping the faith in college. So welcome to those of you who are here live. And hello to those of you who are listening to the recording or watching the recording later on. So all week we're talking about keeping the faith in college, a very real question. I think that probably parents have more than the teens. The reality is that students do go off to college and lose their faith. I don't know the numbers, but it does happen. And it's something that, kind of scares us. So that we don't operate or make decisions from a spirit of fear, but rather faith and hope and trust in the charity of our Lord. I want to talk about some things that we can do, or that we can help our students know to do, our children know to do, that can help them endure or persevere in the faith as they go off to strange school with strange people and strange teachers and strange lands, and sometimes away from family and the support of the family, the institution of the family that they're accustomed to for the first 18 or so years of life. So the first day we talked about habits that students can maintain. Yesterday, the second day, we talked about the community, and specifically or especially about friends, the kind of friends that we ought to look for when we go off to college. And then today I want to talk about what I call learning from the, quote, bad guys. Especially, well, not especially. You go off to college and you're going to read books written by people that are, they don't share the same commitments, faith commitments, perhaps even ethical commitments or aesthetic commitments, truth commitments. And sometimes those are the authors of the books. Sometimes those are the professors themselves. If you go to a great books program, an honors college, you're almost certainly going to be reading books by people that don't share those commitments. And you're going to have to learn from those guys. So then they're what I'm calling the bad guys, in scare quotes. It's unlikely that at a school like Belmont Abbey, of course, in the honors college, that you're going to encounter bad guys who are your professors, but you're going to encounter bad guys who are the authors. And so I want to talk a little bit about both of those groups of people, because I don't know what colleges you or your children, you if you're the student, or your students, your children, if you're the parent, are going to go to. So the one of the things with respect to the people, let's talk about the real life people, the professor standing in front of you or in front of your child. One of the things that we have to remember is that we, as the students in this case, have to remember is that we're at that school and we're in that class, and even if it's a required course, I am to some extent there voluntarily. I chose that school. I chose to go there. I chose to submit myself to that organization and those people. And so I have to enter into that classroom with respect for, I have to be respectful to the teacher. It does not matter how certain I am of my own views, my own positions, and it doesn't matter how engaged or interested or excited I get about apologetics or anything like that. It is not my job. It is not my place to go in there and try to convert my professor, not through argumentation. So, one is to recognize that I'm going in there in a particular role, and I have to submit to that role, and I have to live out that role. And then what I want to say about that is going to come up also with respect to the book. So I'm going to save it for that. But one thing to remember about the person is that sometimes our parents, or we as parents can do this, but if I'm addressing the students, the students may get the perception from their parents or from friends, family, neighbors, people at church, whatever, that there's this idea that we believe to be true and that we understand, that we have faith is true. And that idea, that truth, for example, that God exists, that truth is connected to everything that flows out from having accepted it. Like I have certain expectations of beauty and of goodness and ethics, morality, things like that, right? And then sometimes the perception can be passed on to me, or I can create it for myself as the student, the child here, that anybody who doesn't believe this holds the opposite understanding of ethics or beauty or whatever. And so I connect the idea to morality, for example, and I make the assumption that people who believe in God are good, people who do not believe in God are evil. People who believe in creationism are good. People who believe in evolution are evil. People that believe whatever, right? It's the doctrines, the ideas, and that's kind of a false connection. Like it just doesn't work out that cleanly. But if I go into adulthood, I go into the adult world thinking that, then I encounter a person in the adult world who does not believe these ideas, but also doesn't represent this opposite version of morality, right? I go into a classroom with a teacher who's an atheist or a teacher who's whatever, and that person isn't evil. He's actually a really good guy who loves his neighbors and um, you know, serves in charitable organizations and gives money to the poor and does all this stuff, right? And is really kind to his class, to his students, and loving. Then I think, well, but this idea tells me that these people are the good people and these people are the bad people. Then I encounter this person and he's not bad. One of the mistakes that I can then make is to assume that, well, then the idea must be wrong. If the conclusions of the idea aren't right, then the idea itself must be wrong. And that's another false connection, right? Like people that do not believe in God can still be neighborly and kind and generous. And the fact that they can be doesn't necessarily mean that Christianity is false, right? So we have to be careful when we're learning from the bad guys that we don't make these kind of false connections and draw false assumptions about the very people that we are now interacting with. So that's just one thing to remember about the people. But now, with respect to how we're learning from them, here's the thing: whether I'm learning from a person or from the author of a book, from the book, I don't want to go into that relationship, go into that classroom experience, go into that reading experience, thinking that my purpose, my goal is to figure out whether they're right or wrong. It's not about determining, it's not about me making the assessment, this guy's right or this guy's wrong. It's about me trying to understand the person. I'm reading to understand, or I'm listening to understand what he's saying, not even considering right or wrong yet. There's this famous, if you Google this, you'll find this famous quotation from Well, supposedly, when you look it up, it's going to say it's from Aristotle. The quotation is something like, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it." Um, if you Google it, it'll say that Aristotle said that. But then if you continue Googling, you'll discover that Aristotle never said it, and that if anything, it's perhaps a summary of what people think Aristotle was teaching. Is probably the closest you could get to a connection with Aristotle. But anyways, here's the point. It is the mark of an educated mind, whoever said it, that it can entertain a thought without accepting it. That's the thing that we have to try to do, is we learn from the bad guys by entertaining the thought without accepting it, or rejecting it, without even evaluating it and assessing it yet on whether it's right or wrong. I honestly cannot do that. Not in a loving, neighborly way. I cannot do that until I understand it. Once I understand it, then I can make assessments about it, evaluations about it. But what happens is we recognize, we'll go into a text reading or listening to a lecture or something, and we'll immediately recognize that it doesn't match what we already believe, and then we want to evaluate it. So just set aside the evaluation process. There's time for that to come. There's plenty of time to do that. Focus on, when you're reading a book or listening to a lecture, focus on trying to understand, what is this guy saying, or this lady? What is this person saying? And why is the person saying it? And in some cases, even trying to go so far as to say, what is the person diagnosing? What is the problem that the person is trying to diagnose? Societal problem often. And what is this person's solution to that problem? Like when you read Marx or when you read Nietzsche, those are my examples of the bad guys, right? But there's tons of guys you can throw in that list, especially as you get closer to modern times. When you go back to the really old people, they were always right. I'm just kidding, but also maybe not a little bit. Marx is identifying a problem with society, and he's diagnosing, this is the problem with society. So let's understand that. Then we can decide at some point, is his diagnosis correct or not? But still, let's understand the diagnosis first. What does he think the problem is? Why does he think that's the problem? Then he's going to offer a solution. He's going to offer the medicine for his diagnosis, right? Now we can talk about, I need to understand, what is his solution? What is he really trying to say here? What is he really trying to communicate? Then I can decide if the problem that he diagnosed is correct, is this solution correct? If the problem that he diagnosed is incorrect, then this would not be the correct solution. But could this be a correct solution if the problem he had diagnosed was correct? All of this stuff, right, can be going on. But I need to understand what he's saying first. What is he diagnosing? What is his solution? What is he saying? Why is he saying it? And then recognize that simply because I understand his point, simply because I understand what he's saying, doesn't necessarily mean I have to agree with him. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to disagree with him. I'm simply understanding. I'm entertaining the thought at this point. Now, here's the thing. Once you're doing that, or as you're doing that, your job, and I'm going to define your job here as negatively. So this is the kind of look. I feel like I've encountered four kinds of students in my life when it comes to reading the bad guys. One is a group that I think hopefully we can just kind of easily set aside as not being you guys. Because that group is the group that doesn't even care what they're reading. They just read it, check the box, I'm done, okay, I'm moving on. They don't even think about it in a contemplative or way at all. But then you have these other three kinds of people. One of them reads the text and immediately rejects it because he decides immediately that the author's wrong. In many cases, before he even opens the book, because he knows reputationally that Marx is wrong before he even flips the cover open. So he goes into it assuming Marx is wrong, and therefore only reading it to find arguments against him rather than to understand him. Um, the second one, um, the second kind of person immediately accepts the arguments because they're different than what he was taught to accept. And there's this maybe internal desire to um, become become your own, and like the only way you feel like you can be your own person is if you disagree with your parents, if you differ with your parents, and so you just take the opposite position of your parents and accept the opposite position of your parents. So then now you can say like, I'm not just being a clone of them. I'm not just a mini version of my mom or dad. And so there's this desire to just kind of accept it, and again, just accepting it without really understanding it. And then the third way, which I think is kind of the most interesting way kind of student, I guess, but still kind of a weird way to approach reading these kinds of books, is that I get these students that come in and they think, I'm going to rehabilitate this guy. I'm going to save Descartes or Nietzsche or Marx or whatever, right? And they have this that you'll hear them say things like, "Well, he was misunderstood." That's not really what he was doing. He wasn't really saying that. He was saying this, and he was just misunderstood by all the people that have written about him since then, right? So like all these people from Descartes to today have misunderstood Descartes, but I understand Descartes, and so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to rehabilitate Descartes' uh, uh, person, his reputation. And again, all three of those people, even this third person who's like trying the hardest not to, even this third person is kind of not really reading the text to understand it, but just to do one of these things, to reject, to accept, or to rehabilitate. So here's the thing, though. I know this feels wrong, and it feels kind of hard to accept perhaps when you're 18 years old. When you're 18 years old, and you're going off to college, and you're going there to try to learn, um, is to think this is what I'm supposed to do. And in some sense, like not consciously, but subconsciously, we think to ourselves, and this is how I'm going to prove that I am my own person and that I'm an adult. I'm going to make my own decisions about these authors. I'm going to reject or accept or rehabilitate. Um, but that's not really how adults like go into the world, or that's not how. Sorry, that is how we go into the world, or we think we do. Um, we try to, but the reality is that the way the adult lives in the world as an adult, once he is an adult, is to do so in an adult way, is to approach disagreement and people with the desire to understand them, and then to take what I understand of that and allow mentors and even the tradition itself to help me understand how to integrate that. So if you think about it on a super personal level, right? Like as if I'm an adult and I have a neighbor, and my neighbor and I have a disagreement, have strong disagreements about whatever, how to raise children or politics or economics or theology, whatever, right? Like I shouldn't have to reject him as a neighbor and have no interactions with him, nor accept everything he believes in order to have interactions with him, um, nor to try to make stuff up to rehabilitate him, right? What I really want to try to do is understand him, understand what his position is, and then allow friends, mentors, and the kind of the tradition around us to integrate our relationship, to allow us to be integrated together in a way that that helps me to integrate my life with his life in a way that's appropriate to neighbors, um, with based on what I'm now able to understand. That's how a good relationship works out. That same thing is true with books, right? If I read as an adult, if I'm reading a book, I want to understand the book and then allow my mentors and the tradition around me to help me understand how to integrate the ideas of that book into my own life. Hopefully that makes sense and gives you a perspective on what to expect when you go to college, right? You're gonna read books that you disagree with, that you know you disagree with before you even open them. Um, and maybe those are the books by Homer and Plato and Aristotle and whatever. Maybe they're books by Nietzsche and Marx and Descartes. Maybe they're just the random textbooks from whatever science class or math class. Um, but you're gonna have to go into settings where you're having to interact with the ideas of someone that you disagree with, that you believe to be wrong, and they're the bad guys. And the best approach to that, whether it's the professor or the text, is to go into it looking for the opportunity to understand the person, then and only then attempt to evaluate him or assess him, draw judgments about the arguments, but do that in context with in a context in which you have a mentor and the tradition helping you understand that. Don't push to immediately reject. Don't push to immediately accept, and don't think it's your job to rehabilitate. And like, you are the first person in 500 years to ever see that this guy actually is being misunderstood, and for 500 years everybody else got it wrong. Like, that's just kind of nonsense. So learn from the bad guys by learning how to entertain a thought without accepting it or rejecting it, as the case may be. All right. On that note, thank you for that little bit of an introduction there, a little bit of, I don't know, what do I call these? Devotionals? No, I don't know. Anyways, some advice, some life coaching on what to do when you get to college. With that note, I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to introduce or invite Dr. Varichelli to turn on his camera. There he is, and join us so he can tell you all about Belmont Abbey, the Honors College specifically, I'm guessing, or all right. Well, Tom, welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Bianco, and I want to thank the CiRCE Institute for hosting me very graciously today. I'm here to talk about Belmont Abbey College, and then also the Honors College of Belmont Abbey, which is a college within a college. I love Belmont Abbey. I love it with all my heart. I was a student from 2007 to 2011. And so the Abbey is my alma mater. It is my nourishing mother. It is in many ways the college that made me the man who I am today. What I appreciate about the Abbey was that it not only gave me an intellectual education or intellectual formation, but it also gave me a moral education, a moral formation, which has been the cornerstone of my academic studies since, whether in graduate school or as a professor at a state school previously and now at Belmont Abbey. So I thought I would do three things. The first is I want to go over the history of Belmont Abbey College, then talk about Belmont Abbey College proper, what majors it provides and all the opportunities the Abbey has in store for you. And then finally, the Honors College. The Honors College, which is our great books college, a college where you would study ancient, medieval, and modern thinkers, not out of antiquarian interest, but out of a genuine desire to know the true, the good, and the beautiful. So let's begin with the history. Belmont Abbey is a Catholic college established by the Order of St. Benedict in 1876. The story, it's a great one, is after the Civil War, the economy of North Carolina was decimated, and an old farm that had existed for 100 years was sold for auction, and a secular priest, Father Jeremiah O'Connell, bought 500 acres for $10. Can you imagine buying 500 acres near a major city for just $10? But he bought it. He bought it with the hopes of establishing a Catholic school in North Carolina because there was not a Catholic school in the South. So he invited the Benedictine order, the Order of St. Benedict, to come. And originally they did not want to come because it was a failing farm in the middle of nowhere. Charlotte in 1876 had a population of 5,000 people, and there were only 800 Catholics in the entire state. North Carolina, up until the 60s, was the most Protestant state in the country. And so the Order of St. Benedict did decide to purchase the property from Reverend O'Connell. And the story goes that one monk and two students arrived on the grounds on August 21st, 1876, and had class that very day. Since then, there has been a class consistently at the Abbey. So the Abbey is now 148 years old. And it's indicative of both the Southern tradition and Catholicism. Here are a couple of stories of the Abbey as it grew. The Abbey struggled to attract monks. When the Catholic monks from Pennsylvania would come down to North Carolina, they hated it so much that they wanted to go. They wanted to leave. No one could stay. Until the first abbot, Leo Haid, came and established the college proper. And he was an ambitious man. He wanted to build a Gothic cathedral in North Carolina, but he didn't have the money to do so. So he's able to get funding from St. Catherine Drexel, a very prominent American Catholic saint. And St. Catherine Drexel was willing to finance a large portion of the building of the basilica if the Abbey would dedicate several rows to Black parishioners. And so in the shadow of Jim Crow, because the Plessy v. Ferguson decision was 1891, the Abbey had an integrated church service where whites and Blacks would have Mass together. Another great story is Babe Ruth. So Babe Ruth would visit the Abbey in the 1930s. Babe was raised in a Catholic orphanage, and even if he didn't act like the most religious man in the world in his private life, he always loved priests. And so when he would come down to Florida for baseball training, he'd always stop at the Abbey. And so there are pictures of the monks and Babe Ruth playing baseball together. He would play baseball with the Abbey baseball players. Belmont Abbey, as a college in the South, has always been an ecumenical school. And so, to my knowledge, Belmont Abbey was the first Catholic school to invite Billy Graham to speak at the Abbey in the 1960s. This would have been in the shadow of the Second Vatican Council. The Abbey has had a storied history in basketball and in several other sports. So Al McGuire, one of the great coaches mid-century in basketball, had coached previously before he went up to Marquette at Belmont Abbey College. And last but not least, Belmont Abbey is a faithful Catholic college that acts upon its Catholic principles, so that when the Obama administration tried to sue the Abbey and several other Christian schools for not having abortion coverage in healthcare, the Abbey, a pro-life campus, refused to provide abortion or contraceptive coverage, sued the Obama administration, and won. And so Belmont Abbey holds true to these pro-life Catholic principles. Belmont Abbey College is a college right now of about 1,500 students. We accept about 400 to 500 freshmen a year, and our retention rate for this year was at 73%. When we look at the student body, there are a variety of reasons why people come to the Abbey. First and foremost would be the reason why I think a lot of you would be interested in the Abbey, and that's our commitment to the great books, our commitment to classical learning, our commitment to the liberal arts. The Abbey has always had a strong emphasis on literature and philosophy and theology and English. The second reason why students do tend to come to the Abbey is because of its Christian heritage. Belmont Abbey, on the one hand, is a very Catholic college, but only 50% of the student body is Catholic. Again, because North Carolina was one of the largest Protestant states in the country, about 50% of the students are Catholic, and then 50% would be Protestant or other Christian religious denominations. And so Catholicism, while it's vibrant on campus, it's not pushed upon the students. Rather, students are invited freely to participate in it. And so at the Abbey, there are 14 monks. We are Belmont Abbey, and so there's a monastery on campus with an abbot who serves as the bishop of the monastery. And then there are 14 monks. And the monks, their role is ora et labora, prayer and work. And so they pray 6 times a day, matins at 6, lauds at 7:30, mass at 11, midday prayer at 11:45, vespers at 5:30, and compline at 7, where they mostly pray using the Psalms and various readings from the Old and New Testament. And they essentially chant the Bible every year through these daily prayers. And the students are always welcome to attend the various liturgies at the Abbey. I have one student, a theology student, who dutifully gets up at 5:30 in the morning to chant the Psalms with the monks at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then for those who are Catholic or interested in Catholicism, Mass is at 11 and no classes are offered during the 11 o'clock hour. We have a holy hour, which gives students the ability to pray or attend church as they see fit. Belmont Abbey has a basilica, an adoration chapel on campus. We even have a cemetery on campus where you will find 6 generations of Benedictine monks buried in the monastery. As a student, the cemetery was my favorite place on campus because I loved the witness of generations upon generations of the Benedictine monks and the Sisters of Mercy who are buried on campus. And then Belmont Abbey is also a pro-life campus. We are one of the few colleges I know that has a house for women who chose life on campus where they can live on campus until their child turns 2 while they finish their college degree. The third reason why I think students come to the Abbey is our strong athletics program. And so if you are interested in the liberal arts, but you also want to engage in Division II sports, you will not find a better match than Belmont Abbey. About 65% of the student body at Belmont Abbey are athletes. We have 30 sports teams on campus, ranging from baseball, basketball, track, all the way to rugby and cycling and track and field, everything in between. Within Belmont Abbey has 30 majors, and these majors vary from the traditional liberal arts like theology, philosophy, English, history. We have the social sciences such as sociology, criminal justice, psychology. But then we also have a variety of majors in professional fields. So we have majors in nursing, in healthcare management, in business and finance and accounting. We even have, because we are so close to Charlotte, one of the only programs in motor sports management. And so if you want to find a way in which to marry the Trivium and NASCAR, Belmont Abbey, again, is the college for you. So within Belmont Abbey College, again, Belmont Abbey is this college of about 1,500 students of various different Christian denominations, there is the Honors College of Belmont Abbey. Belmont Abbey is 148 years old. The Honors College is only 7 years old. The Honors College centers on the study of the great texts of the Western canon, beginning with Homer and concluding with the great novels of the 20th century. Now, the Honors College is different from traditional Belmont Abbey in two significant ways. The first would be the way in which our classes are taught. Our courses in the Honors College are taught in the Socratic manner. So our students are expected, and they do, come to class prepared, having read the material carefully, and be able to engage in questioning, discussion about the meaning of the text, so that when we study Homer's Iliad, or to use one of the examples that Dr. Bianco provided, one of the bad guys, Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, we are not interested in what our feelings are about Plato or Homer or Nietzsche. We want to find what Nietzsche himself is saying and why he is saying it. And then what are the implications of Nietzsche's thoughts? And we have that process not only for the bad guys, but for the good guys. So that when we study Plato and Aristotle, who I would consider to be quite clearly on the good team, we want to read and study and analyze Plato qua Plato. We don't want to Christianize Plato, because plenty of the Christian church fathers do that for us. And it's important to study Plato qua Plato before we move to what Christian Platonism would look like. The second way in which the Honors College at Belmont Abbey differs from traditional Belmont Abbey is our curriculum. And this is what I want to spend most of the time talking about today. Our curriculum is a 78 credit curriculum, meaning that the Honors College curriculum replaces the standard curriculum it replaces the curriculum of Belmont Abbey, and it gives the students a minor in great books. 78 credits is a lot. In college, a class is usually 3 credits. It's 120 credits to graduate. And so in order to graduate Belmont Abbey, you need to take about 40 classes, 5 a semester over the course of 8 semesters. 26 of those 40 classes are honors classes, which means the majority of your classes will be great books classes that study, again, classical, medieval, and modern thought. The other 14 classes would enable you to major in whatever you would like. The unique thing about the Abbey that a variety of Christian and Catholic schools don't provide is you can have primarily a great books education, but then you can major in business, or you can major in accounting, or you can even major in nursing. So we hope to produce, for lack of a better term, that's perhaps too much of a utilitarian verb, but we hope to foster nurses who can read Plato, nurses who read the Bible, nurses who have studied the Trivium, or businessmen or accountants who have done the same. In fact, most of our students do choose to major in something outside of great books, although about 20 to 25% of our students in the Honors College do major in great books proper. And so at Belmont Abbey, you have the opportunity to have a great books education. Perhaps some of you were exposed to this in middle or high school, or if you're a student watching this and you wish you had gotten a more classical education in high school, then you should really discern the Abbey or actively discern the Abbey, precisely because the way in which the Honors College is structured, we can provide you a very strong education in classical ed while giving you professional chops in the major of your choice. 78 credits, 26 classes is a lot. And the way in which we divide it is by theme. So the first year's theme is Greece and Rome. And the Honors College preference is admittedly for Greece. Most of our freshman classes are Greek-oriented. So students have mandatory classes in Homer and Virgil, where they read the Iliad and the Odyssey and then the Aeneid. They have a mandatory class on Plato, where they read the Apology, Aristophanes' Clouds, the Crito, the Euthyphro, the Meno, and the Republic. They are required to take 2 semesters of Latin or Greek. They take a class on Euclid for math, so they go through Euclid's elements, and that's the foundation of our mathematics in the Honors College. There's a class on Greek histories where you would read the histories and the history of the Peloponnesian War. And then, of course, there's a class on Aristotle. And that's just your first year. Second year, it gets even better. Your first semester of your sophomore year, you study the Christians. And as I tell the students, the most important class you take is Scripture, because nobody beats the Word of God, right? So Scripture is the foundational course of the sophomore year. And then students take a class on St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas, where they read the Confessions and on free choice of the will, and then selections from the Summa. And they also take their first class on the Trivium, where they study Aristotelian logic and Plato's Gorgias. There is then the additional opportunity to take a class on the doctors of the church of both the East and the West. So right now our students are in that class are reading Origen and St. Athanasius, and then they'll read St. Bernard of Clairvaux and St. Bonaventure. In the spring of the sophomore year, we introduce the students to some of the quote-unquote bad guys, the moderns. The first modern class centers on 16th, 17th, and 18th century philosophy. So you would read Machiavelli, Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince, certain readings of Francis Bacon, Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, and then Descartes' Meditations and Discourse on the Method. The second class you would take is a class on the American founding. I will argue those are the good guys. But you would read the Declaration of Independence, United States Constitution, the Federalist Papers, which is the unofficial definitive analysis of the Constitution. And then read certain works by Frederick Douglass, who talks about the unique relationship of race in America, and also Abraham Lincoln and his debates with Stephen Douglas. You will also take a third class in the Trivium, or your third class is the second class of the Trivium, where you would read Aristotle's Poetics and Rhetoric, as well as Plato's Phaedrus. There would be also the opportunity to study Shakespeare. So Dr. Wysocki, our provost, loves to teach a class on the Henriade. These are the 4 plays that deal with Henry and his predecessor, Richard II. In your junior year, you do your second course on the moderns, and these are perhaps the really bad guys, your first semester of your junior year, where you are reading Karl Marx and Friedrich Nietzsche, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Immanuel Kant. There is also a class on economic wisdom, a class where you would read Adam Smith and Karl Marx and compare them to the social thought of the Catholic Church, beginning with Rerum Novarum, going forward. Those are good guys, and among the mix. Then the second semester of your junior year, we have a semester where the Christians get to have their say to modernity, so that the two Christian semesters are, if you imagine a sandwich, the modernity classes are sandwiched in between the two Christian classes. We are ultimately on Team Christianity at Belmont Abbey, and we want the Christians to have the last say. One of the dangers of how other schools teach is they allow Nietzsche or they allow Sartre to have the last say. Not so. So when we look at the Christian response to modernity, we have certain classes that center on how 19th and 20th century Christian authors respond to modernity, such as Soren Kierkegaard, or Cardinal John Henry Newman, or the encyclicals of the Church, or G.K. Chesterton, C.S. Lewis, are all taught in that semester. But we also use this as the opportunity to teach another class of scripture, to teach a class on Dante, so that you read Dante after you've done the moderns. It's a little, it surprises people, but it works, doing Dante after the moderns. And then there's also the opportunity to take another class on Augustine and Aquinas by reading The City of God and Aquinas on Virtue. Our fourth year centers on the great debates of the 21st century. Many students have questions about rights. Where do rights come from? Are rights socially constructed? Do they come from God? Do they come from nature? Or is it just a philosophical mistake to talk about rights in the first place? So we have classes on freedom and virtue. We have classes on history and the idea of progress. We have a textual analysis course on Alexis de Tocqueville's Democracy in America. One of the most important books in the Catholic tradition of the 20th century is Honoré de Lubac's The Drama of Atheist Humanism. And we use this as a course where we take de Lubac, a practicing Catholic, and have him in dialogue with Auguste Comte or Kierkegaard or Nietzsche. And then we have a variety of classes that are to prepare our students for the future, such as a very popular seminar on love, marriage, and family that all students are required to take their last semester, where they'll read great novels such as Brideshead Revisited, or great works of philosophy like Plato's Symposium, or great works of theology like the Gospel of John. The purpose of this fourth year is to use classical, medieval, and modern texts in order to address these very live questions students have. What does it mean to be an American? Is there a movement of history? Where do rights come from? Is modernity salvageable? I think the selling point for the Honors College are the students themselves. Our students love God and they love the great books. And when I have conversations with my students outside of class, let's say getting coffee at our coffee house, they know how to integrate the works that they read with their lives. So that, again, it's not antiquarian interest that leads them to read these old books, but they believe, rightly so, that these books can instruct on how they ought to live their lives. And so they will use Aristotle and Plato, Augustine and Aquinas, Dante and Shakespeare in order to talk about their favorite movies, their favorite music, their relationship with the opposite sex, their workout routine, or better yet, their relationship with God. There are a couple of perks that come with being in the Honors College. The first is all students receive an $8,500 scholarship. Tuition at the Abbey is relatively low for a private Catholic Christian school. Tuition for the following year is probably going to be $21,500. And so the Honors College Scholarship is a little half than tuition there. The second would be a variety of cultural events. So we take our students to about one or two fancy cultural events each semester. Last spring, we took our students to a symphony performance of Brahms and Tchaikovsky in the Belk Theater in Charlotte. And so all the students dress up in their fancy clothes with all the rich people of Charlotte to enjoy this beautiful music that complements and enriches our curriculum. Last fall, we saw Handel's Messiah, and how beautiful it is towards the end of Handel's Messiah, where everyone is expected to stand up for the Alleluia. This October, we are going to see a performance of C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters. There is a theater troupe that is putting this on in Charlotte, and so I got 100 tickets for our students to attend the Screwtape Letters. And these events are largely free. They're part of the honors budget. The only potential cost would be parking costs. In addition to the cultural events that our students set up, our students are very good at fostering an authentic community. This Friday, our students will, for the fourth consecutive year, put on a reading of Plato's Republic, where they will start at 7 o'clock, dressed up in suits and ladies' equivalent, and they will read Plato's Republic for about 14, 15 hours all through the course of the night. And yes, there are always about 20 students who make it all the way through. Our students throw interclass parties with each other. So last Thursday, in order to welcome the 45 freshmen who have entered into the honors class, the juniors threw a party at the alumni house on campus. And it was a wonderful time. There was a dessert bar. They played a variety of games, communal games, and then they bonded over trivia. Several of our students host bonfires in the back of apartments, where conversation again will gravitate from movies to music to their workout routine to Aristotle to Plato and back again. Because again, our curriculum is alive and lived. At the conclusion of your sophomore year in the Honors College, there is the ability to have a 4-day, 3-night beach retreat on Shakespeare's The Tempest. So we rent 2 mega mansions a block away from the beach, one for the guys and one for the girls. And for about 4 hours a day, we meet to discuss The Tempest, to discuss its meanings. It's about an act. We spend about 2 hours on each act, so we do it nice and slow. And we hash out and we debate what Shakespeare is trying to do with this play. But then, outside of those 4 hours, the students are free to do as they wish. They are able to swim. They're able to fish with the dean. They can walk up and down the beach. There's the opportunity to go to Mass. We have a rosary on the beach. It's just a very relaxing opportunity. And it's a great capstone for finishing half of your collegiate experience. And there is no cost to attend this beach retreat. At the conclusion of your junior year, there is the ability to study abroad in Ireland for 4 weeks. The Honors College pays for most of the trip because it is 4 weeks, but students are expected to pay about $2,500. They have the opportunity, if they so elect, to take 6 credits or 2 classes during the trip to make their senior year more easy. Our base in Ireland is Limerick, but they do explore the entirety of Ireland, visiting all of these old monastic sites and visiting the museums in Dublin and becoming immersed in the literature and the history of Ireland. There are currently about 140 honors students. We are aiming for 50 honors students a year, but if we get even more impressive applicants, we are very willing to increase the honors numbers. I do believe that if you are affiliated with CiRCE, if you love the great books, if you're if you are interested in the integration of faith and reason, if you desire long-lasting friendships, you should consider the Honors College of Belmont Abbey. Guys, I can make no promises, but over the last 6 years, I know of about 14 marriages that have come solely from the Honors College of Belmont Abbey. And it is beautiful to see that our students love the Abbey so much that people have voluntarily chosen to stay in the Charlotte metropolitan area. That there is this very rich and deep alumni community of the Abbey where they raise their children together, they play together, they pray together, and they show that the Abbey did what the Abbey promised it would do, that it would provide a culture and a community rooted in the love of God, rooted in the great books, that our alumni, whether in the Charlotte metropolitan area or throughout the country, so demonstrate. And so if you desire to be that light, and to be part of the light that is Belmont Abbey, always feel free to reach out. My my name is Dr. Varacalli, and my email is thomasvaracalli@bac.edu. It's just my first and last name, and that at bac.edu. And with that, I'll open it up back to Dr. Bianco.
All right, great. Let's see if we have any questions. They have any questions for you.
I do see Frank D has the question, is it possible to do athletics while attending the Honors College? And the answer is yes. I would say about 15 to 20% of our students in the Honors College are athletes. Admittedly, there are some sports that are a bit more conducive to it than other sports. Many of the honors athletes do tend to gravitate to track, cross country, tennis, soccer. But we do have a baseball player, we do have a softball player, we have someone on the cycling team, we do have someone on the softball team, and we've had people on field hockey and lacrosse. It is difficult because the Honors College curriculum is rigorous, and Division II sports is a full-time commitment. But Frank, if you are committed, you would be able to do it. And I would encourage you to do it if you would want to do both. What else? What else?
Yeah.
What is my acceptance rate? So the Honors College had about 170 applicants. In order to enter into the Honors College, you have to have a 3.5 GPA from high school, and you have to go through a Zoom interview with me. Because we care about not only your intellectual development, but your moral development, the most important part of an application is going to be the interview, because I need to be assured that you're a person of goodwill, will be able to engage in conversation. And I bring this up because we do come across students who have a 4.0 GPA, but they are rude or pretentious or haughty in their interview. And if I don't think that they will do well in seminar, I will reject them. So We have rejected people of 4.0 GPAs while accepting the person of very good character who just has a 3.5. With that said, I had about 160 applicants to the Honors College. There are 45 students in the Honors College, which means I don't have exact numbers, but about a third were rejected, a third were accepted and attended the Abbey, and a third accepted and chose to go elsewhere. Another question I see is whether or not there's a summer week where you can attend or visit the Abbey, and there certainly is. So in July, it's either the first or second or third week of July, it depends upon the year. We have a great book summer camp called SCOLA. SCOLA, which has been around for about 8 years now, usually brings about 60 to 80 high school students. It is open to anyone who has finished 1 year of high school. So we welcome rising sophomores, which most college summer camps do not do. And we also invite rising juniors and seniors. At this summer camp, we have 2 great book seminars in the morning. We have lunch, and then there's always an afternoon/evening activity. The seminars usually center on Plato or Aeschylus, Aristotle, Augustine, Aquinas, Dante, Bernard of Clairvaux, Shakespeare, sometimes John Milton, sometimes Flannery O'Connor, sometimes a writing of one of the popes. But it is always a mixture of theology, philosophy, and literature. It's never just one of the other. As a true great book school, we see the unity of all the humanities together, all the liberal arts together. In the afternoon, we do a variety of activities. This could include some on-campus events like having a kickball tournament or a soccer tournament, or learning how to dance. And gentlemen, if you're watching this, the easiest way in high school to meet a girl is to just learn how to dance and ask her to dance. That's the easiest way to meet people, because it is so sad to see how many girls want to dance and how few boys want to dance. But sometimes there are dance contests. But then we do a lot of things off campus. If there is a home game in town, we'll see a game of either the Gastonia Honey Hunters or the Charlotte Knights. Every year, like clockwork, we go to the Whitewater Center in Charlotte. The Whitewater Center is where the Olympians train for whitewater rafting, and our students get to whitewater raft. For many, it's their first time. We have hikes. We usually go to South Mountain. South Mountain is a beautiful hike. It even has a waterfall, and the students like to play in the water. And then we always conclude with the talent show. Many of the students who come to school, though not all, are musicians, or they recite poetry, or they'll do a stand-up routine. And it's always fun to see how the quiet students on Sunday often win the talent show on Friday. I think the Abbey is very good at building an authentic community. The Abbey, I don't think, is pretentious. We're not sort of that Ivy League pretentiousness. The relationships are very intentional and dare I say, holy. I was, as a child, a very shy person, and it was the Abbey that helped me overcome my shyness. And one of the things that I do take pride in as an instructor and as the interim dean of the college is to see students who are shy or timid just flourish in front of my eyes. So SCOLA, I believe in 2025 is going to be the week after Independence Day. We will have the dates set later this month, but do visit our website, Belmont Abbey College, SCOLA 2025. It is usually about $650, so about $100 a day in order to attend. And that, of course, includes lodging, 3 meals a day, and all the activities. So you don't have to pay to go to the Whitewater Center because it's all part of the tuition. And it's a great exposure to the Abbey and to the great books. Now, if you are a senior, and let's suppose you want to visit the Abbey gives tours Monday through Friday at 9, 1, and 3 o'clock. And they also sometimes give tours on Saturdays, but not all Saturdays. That is by appointment. If you do visit the Abbey, I'm going to give you an instruction. Email me that you're coming so that I can meet you and we can talk about the Honors College in person. And if you do reach out to me that you want to visit the college, I'll get you a meal pass for lunch. I'll make sure that honor students sit with you at lunch and talk to you and ask about your academic interests. You'd have the ability to sit in on our classes and engage in the seminar. And if you ask me early enough, I can tell you what we're covering, and you can even participate in the seminar. But the rule of thumb is if you're going to visit the Abbey, contact me so that I can give you the white glove treatment, because I want to give you the white glove treatment. And it's precisely because students did get to have lunch with the honor students in the cafeteria, or they did get to sit in on the honors class. That's why they decided to attend the Abbey. It is in many ways the personal that brings students to the Abbey.
So you said something earlier that people get to fish with the dean, but
Mhm.
now we know that you're the dean. So they get to fish with you, or is this changing because you're
Yeah,
a different dean?
I don't know how to fish. It is on my bucket list. So they will get to fish with the dean, or they will get to fish with the provost of the college. So the previous dean has become the provost, Dr. Joe Wysocki. He's an avid fly fisherman. And one of the most meaningful events that some of the junior and senior boys went on last year was a fly fishing retreat with Dr. Wysocki, where they read his favorite novel, A River Comes Through It. And they flied fish, prayed together, and just had an amazing, manly weekend.
Well, congratulations on being the dean now, the interim dean.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What else, guys? I feel free to ask the hard questions if you so desire. Well, Dr. Bianco, do you have any questions for me?
Um, I'll think of one while you answer that.
Okay, sounds good. So test scores for admission. Belmont Abbey does want students to take either the CLT, the ACT, or the SAT. Belmont Abbey, the Honors College, has a great relationship with the classical learning test. But for the Honors College, when I am interviewing the students, I, for the most part, do not care about the SAT or the ACT or the CLT in deciding students into the Honors College, in part because there is a trend of some very gifted students struggling on standardized testing. It is more for the Abbey. We will look at GPA, your answers to the questions on the application. So we'll ask you questions like, who was the most formative person in your high school? What books do you read? What hobbies do you have in your spare time? Really think about that one, because if we want to build community at the Abbey, we want you to bring your hobbies to the Abbey. So, you know, I've seen students learn from other students how to fish, how to dance, how to do basic woodwork, or how to crochet. These are things that should be part of an education, right? Because they are good things in and of themselves. So Belmont Abbey will require some SAT, ACT, CLT, or other standardized testing, but the Honors College doesn't care too much about it. I should specify, in order to apply to the Honors College, you do need to apply to Belmont Abbey College too. So you first should apply to Belmont Abbey, which means you do need to do the standardized tests. And then you will apply to the Honors College. The link to that is on the Honors College website. One of my concerns is I want our students to have an authentic community on campus. The Honors College, I think, very clearly has a culture, but I do want them to participate in the broader Belmont Abbey culture. I am proud to say that about a third of the Abbey players of the theater troupe, are honor students. Both Romeo and Juliet in the spring were honor students. We, by the way, have the oldest theater troupe in the state of North Carolina. It's 140 years old. Fun fact of the day there. And I love to see, to go back to someone else's question, I do like to see student athletes. I do like to see the honor students being presidents of clubs and engaging in clubs that aren't necessarily academic, or being involved in campus ministry. I can talk about the Abbey all day if that's what you want. But any other questions?
You mentioned already, I think, if just in case if you did, then just you can just say it. But if you didn't, then maybe clarify. But there's different options with the Honors College, right? I can get my major can be the Honors College program, or I can have the major and then another minor, or I can have the other thing as a major and then the Honors College as a minor, right?
Yes. So there are 3 tracks in the Honors College. Let's start with the one that's most common. The most common is the 78 credit track, so about 26 of your 40 classes, and that enables you to major in any major at the Abbey, including nursing and biology, which are probably the hardest majors on campus. Then there is the second track, where for 4 additional classes, 90 credits, your major would be great books. And even with the major in great books, that frees up 10 other classes for potentially a second major. So maybe you could double major in great books and accounting, or you can have a variety of different minors where you can major in great books and minor in English and history. Then the third option, which is the least common, because Belmont Abbey College is such a good college and there's so much offered outside of the Honors College, our honor students take advantage of the traditional Abbey. But there are a few students who do the 120 track in great books, where they only take great books classes in the Honors College.
Great. Looks like a couple more questions in there.
Okay. I don't know what the minimum test scores are for the Abbey. The admissions director or the admissions counselor for honors, her name is Teresa Peets. Teresa, Theresa, and then her last name Peets, Peetz, at bac.edu. She would be able to answer that question. And then there's a question about motorsports management. Is motorsports management geared towards mechanical engineering or the business paperwork management? Motorsports management is for the most part concerned with the latter. It is mostly concerned with the business side of motorsports management. So the motorsports management program has been around for about 15, 16 years, and already the Abbey has a disproportionate influence of middle management in NASCAR because we are one of the few colleges in the country to have that focus. But it is mostly the business side of motorsports management. It is not under the hood changing the tires in less than 30 seconds side of motorsports management. It's a side that can get you rich. It's a side that can get you rich, I think, a little bit more easily. And then you can fund and be a generous donor to both CiRCE and the Honors College.
Right? Nice. Nice touch.
There are internships with NASCAR through the Motorsports Management Program. I do recommend reaching out to the chair of the Motorsports Management Program, and that information would be found on the website if you just typed in Motorsports Management, Belmont Abbey.
Seen Frank on here for a couple of days now, and I didn't know Frank was so into NASCAR. This is interesting.
Yeah, no, and everyone has their thing, and I have really grown to admire NASCAR in a way that I was raised on Long Island, and a Long Islander usually isn't interested in it, but it's a great program.
It's in the neighborhood, right? It's just right down the
It's in the neighborhood, right? And part of building a community is appreciating what's in the neighborhood, and seeing the value in it.
It's actually like kind of right in between us and you guys, CiRCE and you guys, right? Yeah.
It is. It is. One of the things I admire about the motorsports management faculty, to show you how committed all of the professors of Belmont Abbey are, is he will rent a van, 15 passenger van, 4, 5, 6 times a semester, and he will drive them up to either the games or to talk with the various administrators. Our Abbey professors are involved. Another great story would be the politics department. Dr. Imparato, who is the chair of the politics department, drives a 15-passenger van up to Washington, D.C., a good 6 to 7 hour drive here, to tour the Capitol, to visit the White House and talk with congressional aides. At very few schools will professors be willing to drive a 15-passenger van for their students. It's many professors frown upon such dirty work, but the Abbey professors, we embrace such things. I will drive the 15-passenger van to go to Hilton Head on that sophomore beach retreat. I've driven the 15-passenger van to Washington, D.C. And I think the thing I love about the Abbey is the professors do things that other professors at other schools just don't do.
Can you hear that? The leaf blower outside my window.
I cannot. But you got sturdy walls in
Muted myself
Concord.
because that was pretty cool.
What percentage of homeschoolers would you say you have? Great question. Um, I would say that if we included homeschool co-ops, these programs, let's say, are half homeschool, half instruction at a designated place, about 30% of the freshman class are homeschoolers, and the number of homeschoolers in the honors college is increasing every year. Our partnership with CiRCE has been, I think, our most fruitful partnership as far as getting students into the honors college. And our partnership with CiRCE, our attendance at both the national and regional conferences, is the primary way through which I think we have been getting more homeschooling families in the honors college. Another great way in which, another thing that I think shows the health of the college is that we have a great track record of getting younger siblings whose oldest sibling had attended the Abbey to the Abbey. So we have one family that has 11 children over the course of, let's say, 20 years, and 8 of those 11 attended Belmont Abbey. And we have several other families of not as big as 11, but some families of 6 or 7 where about 4 or 5 of their children went to the Abbey. And it's also a place where an older sibling is not embarrassed to see their younger sibling on campus. Yes, they want some distance, but for the most part, they hang out together and they share their friends.
It's very true in my case. 2 of my 3 kids went there. I don't have 11. I only had 3. I was way behind way behind the ball on that one. But out of my 3 kids, 2 of them went there, and the 2 went there. They were overlapped a little bit by a year or 2, and not embarrassed to see each other, to be there together. And they were both homeschooled and from classical conversations, just like LA asked there. I went. Well, of course, the older one didn't go. The honors college didn't exist then, so he went through the old honors program. And then my youngest she was in the inaugural class for the honors college. Exciting, yeah.
One of the many superstars of the honors college alumni, for sure.
And I think I learned about Belmont Abbey from CiRCE. So actually, everything you said perfectly applies to my family. From CiRCE, homeschooled, and an older sibling and a younger sibling went together.
And I should say, if there are any parents watching, Belmont Abbey does have an MA program in classical and liberal education. Again, there's a partnership with CiRCE where credits from the apprenticeship can be transferred over so that you get your degree within a year, if you so desire. You can do it part-time or full-time. If you do it full-time, you certainly can do it within a year. Part-time, maybe a little bit more than a year. But it's lovely to see so many people have gone through the CiRCE apprenticeship to be in our online MA programs. I should emphasize, because our master's program is online, the Honors College is completely in person. The Honors College does not have a single online undergraduate course, and we never will. The Honors College is, I'm an old fogey at heart, and we have paper books with no electronics unless you have some form of accommodation. And we sit around a table and we discuss with paper books in person, Plato, Homer, Aristotle, Euclid, the Church Fathers, etc.
Glad to hear that.
Anything else? Anything else? I can pontificate if you so desire. I do want to encourage all of you to visit the Abbey. The Abbey is a remarkably beautiful campus. Architecture matters, landscaping matters, it enlivens the soul. They're secondary goods, but they're secondary goods that point to the higher good. And Belmont Abbey looks like a liberal arts campus. It looks, or at least the front side of the Abbey, the academic buildings, look like it's an Ivy League school. One of the stories that you'll always hear at the Abbey, and that I'm very happy to relate, is the buildings that were built before 1910 were often built with the bricks the monks themselves laid. The monks would start the fires and they would bake the bricks. And you can see in some of the older bricks the imprint of some of the monks. Those monks who built the Abbey really dedicated themselves to building a beautiful campus. And we are, now that we're 3 centuries into this noble experiment, our role is to preserve what the monks and the first teachers had established. And so do walk around campus, visit the buildings, study the bricks, look at the architecture. It is truly awe-inspiring. If you go into the basilica and you look at the stained glass windows, the stained glass windows won an award at the 1908 World's Fair in Chicago. Someone came about 20 years ago, I think from Sotheby's or an organization like that, and declared the stained glass windows priceless because it's not only stained glass, it's painted stained glass. And it's it's a variety of the different saints, some of the Benedictine saints, such as St. Benedict's original disciples, St. Maurice, St. Placid. But then there's also St. Boniface and St. Bernard and St. Anselm, St. Gregory the Great, who were all Benedictine monks, as well as some female Benedictines, some Benedictine nuns like St. Walburga and St. Gertrude.
Well, I would like to add to that because I agree. I think Belmont Abbey is a beautiful campus, and if any of you get a chance to go, ever have a chance to go, you should go. Um, I brought a student there in summer of like July 2023, and she was in a class I was teaching, and that Belmont Abbey hosted us while we were there for a week, and and this young lady didn't even know she wanted to go to college. She was just doing the CiRCE apprenticeship and thought that's all she was going to do, and she was done. And then she spent a week at Belmont Abbey and then applied over later that year. She ended up applying, and now she started at the Honors College this year. So the it's just one of those campuses that it's captivating, and when you go there, you're kind of like I kind of want to. I don't, I'm not, it would be difficult to visit and then not want to go there afterwards. It's just so beautiful. So
It is a great place of peace. There's an
mhm.
old adage of Edmund Burke about the relationship between the living and the dead and the unborn. And at the Abbey, you see that. Because there is a cemetery on campus, it grounds our historical memory that there were men and women who walked on this campus for 148 years, that they're buried on the soil, they're buried in the same soil that they walked upon. And then when I look at the children that our students are producing who are staying in the area, we can see the future of our church and of our country in those children, that we are respecting the past, giving due honor to the past, to address contemporary questions for the sake of a noble future.
Mm, very good. It looks like you want to take this one last question.
I assume a lot of families of faculty are present and involved. Yes. One of the old jokes I would say, because it really wasn't a joke, is if I wouldn't trust you with Dr. Wysocki's 7-year-old daughter, I don't want you in the honors college. Insofar as I do want men and women entering freshman year who have a certain a maturity, precisely because there will be opportunities for the freshmen to meet Dr. Wysocki's 7-year-old daughter at a social event on campus. And the spouses of the faculty do care about the students too. The students will babysit, oftentimes the children of our faculty as well, precisely because it is such a beautiful community.
There you go. Pass that on to your mom. It's a great mom question. I like that. Well, Dr. Varacalli, thank you very much.
It was such a pleasure, Dr. Bianco, and I hope to see all of you soon.
Yeah, thanks for all of you who came live, and for those of you who watch it later. Hopefully you'll take a chance to get out there and visit, or email Dr. Varacalli and get questions answered. And yeah, hopefully this helps you along the way. Thank you.
All right, bye, guys.